call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation following.
Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please bless our elected officials. Grant them the wisdom to know and the courage to do what is right for all citizens. Amen.
Amen. Okay, roll call, please.
Allen. Here. Green. LaFour. Mistrovich.
here.
Reindell.
Here.
Ricks.
Here.
Warren.
Here.
A motion to excuse LaFour and Green from tonight's meeting due to being out of town would be in order.
I'll make the motion.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. Approval of minutes for the regular city council meeting of July 1st would be in order.
I'll make the motion.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion on those minutes? Being not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We also, against? Motion does pass. We also have the special joint meeting of the City Council and Recreation Board minutes from also July 1st. Is there a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion on those minutes? Being not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. We move on to audience comments on any non-agenda items. Would you like to speak to the council? Okay. We move on. Adoption of agenda. Mr. City Manager, any changes?
No changes.
Okay. City Council, any changes? Motion to accept the agenda as presented would be in order.
I'll make the motion.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion? Being not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
What's been made and supported, there is no discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. We move on. There is no public hearing this evening. We have 5 items for consideration. The first one being consideration of closing Beebe Street for the community garage sale. Mr. City Manager?
Council is scheduled to consider closing Beebe Street from Festival Drive to Park Street, detouring traffic on Washington, Stone, and Park. The closure would be during the Richmond's Community Garage Sale on Saturday, July 27th, and we've approved this closure the last 2 years.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the closure of Beebe Street from Park Street to Festival Drive on Saturday, July 27th from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. Is there any discussion on this? This has always worked out really well since we've done this.
Just keeps it safer for the people going back and forth from Bailey to Beebe Park in that area.
Yeah, good. Any audience comment on this one?
No, sir.
Okay, back to the table. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. Item number 2 is consideration of proposal for library space study. Mr. City Manager.
Council is scheduled to consider approving a proposal from Library Design Associates in the amount of $7,500 to provide a space needs study of the current Lois Wagner Memorial Library footprint and $1,000 from Tetra Tech to prepare CAD drawings of the existing library. Library Design Associates specialize in functional planning, consulting, interior design and furnishings, procurement for public and educational libraries. They come highly recommended. Many of the libraries in our own suburban library cooperative, as well as libraries across the state, have utilized them. And this is kind of the first step in determining how to better utilize our existing footprint, but also to determine whether we're going to need to do additions in the future. This company doesn't necessarily do that work as far as if we decide to go further and look at expansion in the future, but they do have worked with architectural firms in the past and would help us kind of vet those companies if we determine that we need that. Having kind of the quick walkthrough that Julianne and I did with this gentleman, he can kind of see a lot of our shelving, computer desks, our I'll say vintage, and computers have shrunk in size, and so the desks that they used to have to be on, you can shrink that quite a bit. Some of the turnstiles, things like that, they do different ways now, and so this, I think, will be well worth it to go with this company to kind of find out how to best utilize this existing space. Council talked about doing this at a previous quarterly roundtable where we talked about the money we were going to be receiving from Richmond Township.
Very good, thank you. Julianne, would you like to add anything to that at this point?
I'm really comfortable with them. I like their approach. They talked about how they talk with staff, they talk with boards, anyone who wants to be involved with that process. They also look at our collection size and see, right off the bat, they could probably tell, do we have enough space for what we actually own? So the associate we're talking to, he's from Romeo, he's local, so I've seen their work as well in Armada and Ray Township. And have been impressed because they definitely go with the feel of the library. Not everyone's going to have very modern look to it. So just very comfortable with their reputation, and their list of clients is huge, including the Library of Michigan. So I feel pretty confident with them.
Good, very good. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the space planning proposal from Library Design Associates Incorporated in the amount of $7,500 and $1,000 from Tetra Tech to prepare CAD drawings of the existing library.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. Any further discussion?
So this will say what we should do with our existing library.
Yes.
And at that point, do you meet again and say, are we comfortable with what we have here, or do we go on the next step and have to add on? Is
Correct.
Is that where we're at in the whole
Yep,
process?
you outlined it exactly the way we see this kind of working.
Because we might like what happens after this first step and say, we're good with what we got right now.
Right. And some of the libraries, like Ray Township, is currently working in phases. So they're starting their second phase. So, it's kind of a long-term planning for us as well.
Good.
Very good. Anything else? Any audience comments on this? Back to the table. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. I forgot to ask, is there a timeline here? Did they give us any kind of a timeline?
We have to get the CAD drawings as soon as, he didn't really go into that specifically, but hopefully after we give him the go-ahead. He knew it was coming to council tonight, so.
Okay. 6 months?
I don't know.
Hard to say, huh?
Hard to say.
Okay. We're looking forward to the study. Item number 3 is consideration of traffic control order, Skinner Drive extension. Mr. City Manager?
City Council is scheduled to consider approving Traffic Control Order 1-19 or TCO 1-19, which would remove parking from the majority of the new section of Skinner Drive, often referred to as the Skinner Drive extension. As Council's aware, in the mid-2000s, we had extended Skinner Drive into the 32 acres of property that's zoned for industrial use. And then the downturn hit, and then recently, earlier this year, Master's Machine opened up on that extension, and we realized that we had not kind of handled parking on there. The first older section of Skinner does not have any parking on either side. And if you look at the attached map, that's in the area denoted in red. And then you kind of a slight curve when you go in, and then another curve to the east. And so the chief of police and I drove back through there, looked at kind of the curves, hydrant locations, and felt that the whole eastern side of the northwest part and the southern side where the fire hydrants are of the east-west portion, if you will, should be no parking. And then from, with the new building, kind of a point about 20 feet past the drive all the way back to the existing roadway would be no parking. There's probably we just felt more comfortable with the curves, that it would be easier for semis if there's no parking on either side of that curve. There is a section there in green that you can kind of see that's a straightaway that, you might get a couple cars in. administration's recommendation was that, you know, it might be kind of more difficult to enforce if you start to let a couple cars in. Now they're gonna kind of, that parking will creep up to the corners and make it difficult. So our recommendation is to remove it in all the area that's yellow or green.
Very good. Okay. Would you like to speak to this before we move on? Okay.
Sounds like the city manager has a good plan.
Okay. All right, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve traffic control order 1-19 to remove parking from the majority of the new section of Skinner Drive.
Support.
It's been made and supported. Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm glad that we got the layout and we're able to look at it. I guess my question is that one area on Skinner Drive, the far northeast part, that's not marked in yellow.
Mhm.
Whether just if it makes, it seems to me it would make it easier, since basically the whole rest of Skinner Drive is no parking. Having that, which amounts to about 2 lot sizes, well, depending on the lot size, but having that left for parking is going to cause potential confusion and enforcement issues. And if we have to mark the pavement and signs, I don't know. I just wondered if there was thought into just completely shutting that off from parking. Or if I'm missing, I don't know if I'm missing something.
And I can speak to that. Certainly as that area is developed, I think in the future we will have to remove parking. I know currently the festival and the city work together to install kind of a millings parking area that would be able to be utilized by the Little League on their larger events, you know, Grandparents' Day, Opening Day, that sort of thing. It's not completed. I think the festival had intended to have a little bit more millings area that they got this year. Certainly that's going to help next year. But even if we do road projects next year and we can expand that a little bit, this might, you know, kind of be the safety valve for next year while that millings area isn't yet complete. But certainly you're correct. At some point, that entire north side will probably need to be no parking. But my thought was to phase it as we have businesses move in there a little bit more quickly than we did this time. But that would also allow, you know, the year or so to get that millings area complete.
Okay.
Was there any consideration given to like enforcement time? So, and I'm sorry, are you from Masters Machine? Yes. Okay. So, is there certain times a day that you could have parking down there?
We just mirrored what's there on the rest of Skinner Drive. We didn't give consideration of that.
So I'd like to ask the gentleman who owns the business there. So do you guys possibly have trucks coming in at any time of the day? Or does your business shut down as far as? Okay. Because we have a huge problem with parking or lack of. It's going to push a whole lot of cars up into the park on every night because baseball's every night. That's really going to be real tough on the use of the rest of the park. And I just was wondering if there was, if we could have parking after, no parking from, whatever, midnight or 2 a.m., whatever it is, the normal times that we use in like some of our parking lots. There's no parking for a certain time period. So if there's no real concern, if they close at 5 o'clock, if we say, hey, there's parking allowed here from 6, to 11 p.m., the time that, or 10 p.m., whatever the time the park has to close. So there's a 4-hour window there where people who are at the Little League can utilize the parking that's shown in yellow and green and the one that's not marked. Was there thought given to that at all, or?
We did not, no.
Okay.
And certainly, I don't know, during the week and I know you're open on Saturday, what time do you normally close, or is everyone gone from the facility on?
I'd say it's around noon.
On Saturday? If you get
during the
really
week.
busy, could you be working on a Sunday?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
I also think I'm sympathetic to the parking issues, but the main purpose of a fire lane is to allow access for emergency vehicles.
Yep.
And unfortunately, fires don't always pick when they start, so that would be my concern.
Mhm.
Protection of my assets and the availability of emergency vehicles.
Yeah.
Also, the liability, there's a lot of foot traffic across the front. Also, the destruction of the investment of grass seed, shrubs, flowers, trees, just from people who aren't as considerate as I think they should be.
If I may add, the last time we had a problem there was when his business was closed. So it not necessarily happened during the day. It was after hours where we had his last little problem that he had with people parking everywhere, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments on this?
I know just from the fire department standpoint, we do a lot of training back there, and we have trouble getting our vehicles back through that curve mainly.
Mm-hmm.
When we go back there for training on Little League nights, and as a parent of former Little Leaguers, I used to park on that road, so I do appreciate that parking there, but it is pretty tight once you do try to get emergency vehicles, so if there was some kind of resolution that would be able to work out timeline, but I don't know if there is or not. But it is tight around that curve at least.
Yeah.
Along Diamond B there.
Yep.
Also, if I may add, it's a good way to have another access point to the Little League Diamonds if an ambulance needed to get there
Right.
without the cars getting in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And by allowing the parking in that area that's not yellow, like Mike had mentioned, maybe bringing it, you can put, that's quite a long stretch where you can line quite a few cars up there if the administration, the chief doesn't see an issue, as long with the business owner. You can still fit a fair amount of cars in that area. It's a little bit of a walk, but it's sure better than walking from the parking lot by the pool.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. Yep. The only thing is, sometimes monkey see, monkey do.
Oh, right, exactly.
One car parks there, and they just keep on parking.
I mean,
around.
where it is permitted.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I mean
Yeah.
too.
Right, yeah.
They don't look at the signs now. They've been parking in a no parking area.
Yeah.
I
No.
parked in no parking area. Everybody parks in the no.
Yeah.
What's posted is no parking down there.
Right.
That entire area.
Right.
Yeah, that we've noticed, like the sign in front of the hydrant, the last sign is essentially right in front of the hydrant on the left side there, and it's facing the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
So beyond there, there's no parking signs. That we've left it open kind of while it was, while we had put the road in, because obviously prior to mid-2000, there was no parking there because the road didn't exist.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to reinforce, that was my thing too, is the consistency on the whole drive.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I'm sympathetic to the parking. I've had kids come through Little League as well. And at that time, it was even harder to park back there because the road wasn't developed. So there are other opportunities to park, but I know it's at a premium in the park. But the way I look at this too is Skinner Drive is mainly there for those potential businesses, not necessarily, when we're using it as an overflow for parking, which I understand. So I feel more of a responsibility for those businesses that are there, even if they're not in business at the time in the evening. But as we're promoting and the people are promoting this, a lot of times I'm sure they're going to come after hours. And the last thing I think that would be attractive to them trying to put a business is into seeing a bunch of cars parked on the drive as they're trying to market it, even though the understanding that, it's not currently being used. So, I don't know, maybe we need to have more discussion on that, but I'm not in favor at this point.
I think the issue that I have more with this than anything else is the lack of parking in our park. And John mentioned about how we're trying to work together with Good Old Days, trying to put in more millings back there, which would be opened up for that parking, which I don't know that it would compensate eliminating parking on Skinner Drive. If you eliminate parking The next thing I have is you eliminate parking in the yellow area and leave it open in the back part there on the north side. You no longer have the protection of all the cars that are parked in there that make people slow down. Now you got people walking where there's no sidewalk, walking down the middle of the road to get over to Little League. So I would agree with the thought that you have brought up is if we're gonna close it on 3/4 of the property, we might as well close it the last quarter. I don't see any reason to have that open. That if we're talking, considering safety here.
That's a great point. Nowhere to walk, you're
Yes.
not walking through that field.
No.
And as Rob mentioned, that is quite, it's not that far to walk, but it is longer to park. So it's not like it's a prime spot that people would be, that would be their some people's number one choice just because they're used to probably parking there, but like anything else, once things change. And I think we should do something first now before it gets too hard to change later.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with closing all parking off there for now. Little League season's over.
Yeah.
And
We can always.
post that, and if something else arises, we can always revisit this traffic order.
Mhm.
But by eliminating all parking, that takes away any confusion where they can and cannot park.
Yeah. Yep.
And then we see what happens with the new parking lot Good Old Days trying to put in. And if it becomes an issue, we can readdress it, come next spring
Mhm.
when Little League starts back up for the next season.
Yeah, and you bring
And
up,
in the meantime, what I can do is have Troy, through the aerial photography, if we make an assumption on a parking space is 20 feet or whatever it is,
How many
how many are actually there, plus how many potential spots are in the new milling area.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, even if we use some
because then,
temporary, the problem I have with the Good Old Days area is, it's crushed. Nothing remains the same. We could spray paint,
right, yeah, it'll probably,
It'll
yeah.
get chewed up.
You get one
Yeah.
person parked wrong and,
and it screws the whole thing
yeah,
up.
yeah.
But we do have a whole lot of highway, what I call highway block that we use around the perimeter to cut the track down. My understanding is, as of late, we have quite a number of those
Right.
I understand.
that the city could move out after Good Old Days. We don't want them in our way during the Good Old Days festival, but it would certainly aid in getting orderly parking back there. That's a possibility.
And what we could do is create a plan that at least the Little League people know this is how you should park in here.
Yeah.
And you get a few people started the right way,
Yeah.
over time they'll realize it.
Yeah. Might have to do something about the pedestrians that will be using the walk around, because that's right through the gate that,
Yeah, right.
so even if you put a few of those blocks along there, so that they would keep them off the track and away from pedestrians that go through that narrow spot.
Yeah, yeah.
That could be, we'll have to do a little more work out there than what we expected to compensate for this.
Right, right. Well, and we have quite a few road projects next year too,
Yeah.
as we've talked about, certainly, we thought we had a lot of millings from Monroe and from Division, but it didn't go quite as hard as we thought, but we're
Yeah.
doing 31 Pierce and Madison, I think,
we're doing
next year.
Madison.
Now, some, it seems that more and more of the contractors are milling versus chunking it out, so we often have millings where in the past sometimes they didn't. And so
Yeah.
certainly we've always used them in our parks or, along Festival Drive or over by Girk, wherever it's, or Bailey, I mean, wherever it's benefited the city and the park system the most. And so, I think different ways to work together.
Possibly some more property there on the west side of the fence that runs north and south of the demolition derby area.
Right.
We could create a parking lot there. It would not bother the
There's-
festival to talk about that.
Sure.
And
The old tractor, pull tractor, is that where you're?
well, I don't know
Or-
that that would work, but
Okay.
on the west end of the derby itself.
Oh, okay.
So it would be the east
Oh, I see, yeah, yeah.
of the open field for the festival.
Right, yep, yep.
That is, we could always, if we get more
Do a row of
millings.
millings there. There, I know there's a curb cut right there.
Yeah, yeah. That would compensate
Sure.
to eliminate this parking here. So, okay. Any other discussion?
Do we need to amend the motion to eliminate a majority of the new section and just have it include all of Skinner Drive?
If you'd like to, Rob,
I would make that amendment to my motion.
to remove parking from all of Skinner Drive.
Correct.
Support.
And, John, it's not necessary, but do you support that still?
That's fine, yeah.
Okay,
That's good.
okay. So now it's all of Skinner Drive. You all understand the motion? Any further discussion? Any further comment? Okay, back to the table. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. Okay. And I would highly recommend a letter be sent to Little League informing them of the need to
I'll
remove
see
the
if they can come
parking.
in and meet with us.
And then we're gonna have to have enforcement immediately.
Yeah.
Because we allow them to park there one day, and they're gonna be howling the rest of the season, so.
Yeah, I'll find out how quickly Jim can get the signs. We normally have a stockpile of those signs, but I'll see how many it's gonna take for that length.
Yeah,
Might win at auction.
yeah.
I need to buy them back.
One
Okay.
question, I'm sorry.
Chief.
The cul-de-sac, the turnaround, is that included in that, the little gravel turnaround at the end there?
All of it.
I guess it'd be part of Skinner.
Yeah. Okay. All right, item number 4 is consideration of the establishment of the city manager evaluation committee. Mr. City Manager?
Council is scheduled to consider establishing the ad hoc city managers review committee. Last year, we established this committee in August. The committee last year comprised of Councilor LaFour, Mayor Pro Tem Mistravich, and Mayor Ricks.
Thank you. If we could suspend the rules for a moment, council, on discussion. Is there anybody that'd like to volunteer for this?
I heard Dennis and Mike wanted.
Yeah, I will. I'll volunteer to do it again.
And since Dennis isn't here and he served on it before, I'm sure he would be more than happy to serve on. Is there any one of you three?
I know, I'm out.
I think the mayor did a fine job. You can
Okay,
stay
thanks
on
a
that
lot.
committee.
Thank you, thank you. Okay. Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to establish the ad hoc city manager review committee for the purposes of coordinating the annual performance evaluation of the city manager and reviewing the city manager's employment agreement and making recommendations to city council on changes in the compensation package provided to the city manager, with the committee to expire on October 30th, 2019, with the following councilors appointed to serve on the committee: Mayor Ricks, Mayor Pro Tem Stravich, and Councilor LaFour.
Support.
What's been made and supported. Any discussion?
Thank you for all your work on that.
Thank you so much, Rob. I know the city managers really appreciated our efforts the last few years. Any other discussion? Any comments from the audience? Back to the table. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. Item number 5, consideration of an appointment to the library board. Mr. City Manager?
Council is scheduled to consider making an appointment to the library board. Gail O'Neill, her term had expired June 30th, 2019. Included in your packet is her application for reappointment.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to reappoint Gail O'Neill to the library board for a 2-year term with an expiration date of June 30th, 2021.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion on this? Glad to see that she's back again, willing to serve the city. I believe she's done a very good job on the library board. Very good. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. Miscellaneous matters from the city manager.
I have nothing tonight.
Council comments? Emily?
No, nothing
John.
tonight.
Nothing.
Thank you.
Rob?
No, sir.
Michael?
Just one thing, we had another board appointment tonight, that's great. I encourage people to, if they're interested, to please come out and fill out an application for the multiple boards that are looking for people.
Okay. Today being July 15th, the EDC will be meeting at 7 o'clock on the 18th. The City Council will meet 1 week from tonight at 6 o'clock again for our quarterly roundtable workshop meeting. Tifa will be meeting on the 24th at 7 o'clock. And what do we have here? The community garage sale will be on the 27th. And also that is the Junkiques.
Rummage and Relic.
Rummage and Relics is what it's called?
Yep.
Okay. That will be also on the 27th. That's a 1 day.
Yes, everything is Saturday. There will be the Richmond Lennox EMS transit vans again, providing rides from the high school parking lot to BB Park for the garage sale to the municipal parking lot at Monroe and Main, and I believe one stop down in the Girk block. Some of the businesses down there are participating, so we'll kind of have those stops.
Very good. Also, on the 18th, I have a flyer here. At 7 o'clock at BB Street Park, I believe it's held by the Pavilion. The New Horizon Band will be playing, and that is sponsored by Senior Helpers on Main Street. And they will be handing out free hot dogs, chips, and water at the concert. So that's always a good time. Is there anything else for the calendar? Okay, we will move on. We do have a closed session. We need a motion.
I'll make the motion to convene into closed session in accordance with Section 8C of the Michigan Open Meetings Act, Public Act 267 of 1976, as amended for strategy and negotiations, sessions connected to with the negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement as requested by administration.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. Roll call.
Green is absent. LaFour is absent. Mistrovich?
Yes.
Rindell?
Yes.
Ricks?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
Allen?
Yes.
Motion is passed. We will go into closed session within 5 minutes, please. Okay, we need a motion to reconvene into open session.
I make a motion to reconvene into open session.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. Under other business, we have approval of Teamster contract. Mr. City Manager?
Before you tonight is the tentative agreement for the Teamsters Local 214.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the tentative agreement with Teamsters Local 214 signed on June 25th, 2019.
Support.
It's been made and supported. Any discussion? Being not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. Motion to adjourn would be in order.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
What's been made and supported, there's no discussion on the adjournment motion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. Thanks for being with us.